So in this lesson here, we are going to set up the FK skeleton so that we can do some FK controls for the skeleton. And I'm going to start off with a circle control here. I'll kind of make it a little bit bigger. And I will snap it holding down V on the keyboard and vertex snapping it onto that control there. This is going to be my center underscore pelvis underscore CTRL, and I am going to freeze transformations, so modify freeze transformations, and I'm going to create a zero group and a offset group here. So create two groups, and they are offset in the position and the orientation. I just need to center the pivot. And they should all be at exactly the same spot. So we can check it here, this, and this, pushing each one of the groups, and we don't see any shifting, so it's good. It's a circle, so it should be exactly in the center. Okay, so that's going to be my pelvis control. Let's rename these here, underscore offset. Two Fs. Here we go. And then that is going to be underscore 0. Cool, so that's that control. I'm going to group it. This is going to be my control group, CTRL, and I'm going to position that into my joint folder. There. The pivot on this group is fine, as long as the control is fine in here. Cool. So now I want to set up joints for each one of these that I want to be able to control, which is basically all the way up through the head. Or not joints, but controls. So I'm going to create a little bit of a custom control here. I can select this and then push F8. And I'm going to set up maybe a control that looks something kind of like this. To me, it kind of reminds me of a spine. Since we're controlling the spine, seems kind of appropriate to create something like that. So I want to position it lined up with the joint there. So I'm going to parent it to that joint. Then zero out the transforms. And here I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Sorry about that. 90 degrees, or actually it'd be negative 90. And then I'm going to push F8 and shift the control back here. F8 again. So the pivot's in the same spot, but the control here is where I want it. So I'm going to Shift P to unparent it. So now I want to create my zero group and my offset group, so I'm going to create a null. So if I deselect everything and create a group by pushing Control G, that will create my null group, which is going to be the zero group for that. So I'm going to go through the same process where I select that group, parent it here, zero it out. And now that that is zeroed, I am going to Shift P to unparent it. I'm not going to freeze transformations on this one, but I'm going to duplicate that group and put it in there, and then the control finally goes inside of that group. So here's my 0 and my offset. So let's go in and name these. It's going to be C underscore, and I'll name it whatever this is. So I named it belly. Belly underscore CTRL. Let's do underscore FK underscore control. Cool. Perfect. And then, oh, I got 2 underscores. There we go. So I'm going to copy that name, put it here. This is my offset. And this is my 0. Then this is going to be parented to that control. So when we select this and rotate it, it will end up rotating that one with it. And then we can work our way down the chain as we go up. So this is basically going to be repeated for each one of the joints. So I am going to freeze this, and then, or I'm going to pause this, and then I'm going to go through and repeat that for all the joints, and then come back once I'm finished with that. Okay, so I repeated that process up the chain for each one of these controls. So they're all parented to the other controls above it. And get the control, and it moves right here all together. So I've done all the way from the pelvis to the clavicle. I haven't done the neck and the head control, anything past this point. This is actually going to be set up to work with both the IK and FK spine. So I'm actually going to do a Shift P to unparent it, but I want to make sure that I do it on the FK skeleton. So let me turn the visibility off on the bind skeleton, and here I'm going to unparent from the neck up. And these are going to be FK controls, but we are still going to have we're going to have them floating, but we're going to constrain them both to the IK and FK spines. So that is going to be basically it for this tutorial. This is going to be FK, like I said, it's going to stay that way. We're just going to make slightly different controls for these rather than using these same controls, but the process is going to be the same. But then when we parent it to two skeletons, that's where it's going to look a little bit different. In the next lesson, we'll look at doing the constraints for the spine itself with the FK spine.